Welcome to the Real Estate Reserve Podcast with your hosts, Jason Balin and Ian Horowitz.
What's up? What's up? What's up? How's everybody doing?
Oh, man.
You love that intro, don't you?
Dude, it gets you pumped, man, the music. I also like a lot of EDM music, sweet beats. It kind of just gets me in the mood. When I'm honestly though, like when I'm grinding on like mind-numbing stuff, like, setting up like reconciling accounts or, transactional type work, I literally put on EDM music and it just gets me in the, I don't know, it's just like the beat, it just gets you going.
Yeah, I got you. When I was used to doing a lot of like website stuff and stuff that you could put headphones on and just jam to music, I was like that as well. Doing real estate deals and staying focused and looking at stuff and being on the phone, not so much. So welcome everyone to the Real Estate Reserve podcast. Today is April 23rd. If this is the first time you've ever hopped on, you will realize that we timestamp everything that we do. We pretty much have been going live every day for the past 35 days since all of this weirdness, let's just call it, this weirdness has happened. We want to bring everybody up to date with what's going on in the local real estate community. Over the past few weeks, we brought in real estate agents, real estate investors, other real estate pros and service providers to help everybody with what's going on. It's very interesting. Real estate as a whole is still up and running. It seems that everybody's very optimistic. Now everybody's still cautious, but at the same time optimistic. We're going to introduce you to a buddy of ours, Kershisnik, in very, very, very momentarily. And we're going to get some insight related to what he's seen. We talked to him for a second ahead of time, and he's been extremely busy. And it just seems like everybody in real estate right now has been extremely busy. And it's interesting. Yeah.
No, and the biggest thing, like you were saying, is that, realtors get to see the ins and outs. I apologize. I was doing all the group shares. They see the ins and outs of everything, right? And I think the only way to find out what's going on, let's bring Chris in now and give it to us straight. Let's hear what he's saying.
Chris Kershisnik, what's going on?
Good to see everybody. How you doing, guys?
What's up, Chris?
We're doing great. So why don't we just start off? Why don't you just give everybody a quick background about yourself? We'll start with that. A quick background about yourself, and then maybe what you are currently seeing / experiencing right now.
Thanks for having me on. So I've been a realtor since 2003, and funny story, I met Jason through real estate when we were first at our office together, which we got our buddy Brett put up some old business cards, which were great, but that's another story. But been going since 2003. We went through the first big crash in 07, 08. And right now we've steadily done, for the past 5-6 years, I've done 30 transactions plus 10, 12, 15 million in that area. And it's just been kind of a solo project. And this year I had a good transaction coordinator. We've got a part-time buyer's agent, 44 transactions. I think I closed 15 million.
Wow.
So it was a good 2019. It looked like 2020 was starting out well too. And then we kind of had this happen, which kind of made everybody apprehensive.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, impressive for one-man operation. As long as I've known you, since 03, you've always been a one-man operation. And I'm guessing that's kind of what meets your mold, meets kind of you the most. What are some things that you've had to kind of adapt to? And I know you mentioned earlier that things were actually really, really good and strong inside your business right now.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, are they mostly buyers or sellers currently right now? And, what are some of the things that you've been doing to adapt with some of the rules, regulations, consumer confidence with either not get uncomfortable going inside houses, things like that?
So here's a little secret. Like I just got back yesterday into town. I've been at my parents' ranch with my family for the past almost 5 weeks. So when this happened, like when it started really happening, I said, are we going to shelter in place in my yard and in my house, or am I going to go out to my folks' ranch, and are we going to ride four-wheelers and hang out? And basically come and go as we please. So 5 weeks ago, we drove out to my parents' house in North Dakota. And we've been out there, and I've been conducting business out there ever since. I've had a couple partners in the office that have handled business for me, and like they've handled showings and inspections and stuff, but it's been business as usual. Since I left for North Dakota, I've had 1 settlement, I've had 2 listings ratify, and I've had 4 buyers ratify purchase contracts, one of which is a short sale that we got approval on within 10 days.
Wow. And then you did all that from in North Dakota?
Yeah.
I mean, it's either that or I guess from his house. Here,
what's the difference, right? I guess that's the advantage of the world we live in now.
The beautiful thing about what's happened in real estate in the last recently is like you can literally do almost except for showing a house, you can do everything on my phone. I don't have to go to the office. Me and Jason used to hang out at the office like 6 hours a day. We'd go get lunch. We'd do something. We'd have to go to the forms cabinet and get all the forms and crap. We don't do that anymore. With COVID, I don't even got to turn in earnest money deposit checks or settlement checks. You don't go to settlement. You do the final walkthrough, you show the house, you arrange your home inspection, you arrange the appraisal. You do everything remotely, like literally everything. So you don't have as much window time. You got to have a little more screen time with your clients and a little more phone time, but it's great.
So you said you got a new listing while you were out in North Dakota. Did I hear that right?
Well, yeah, 2. We rushed to get it on the market. It's a little condo in Frederick, a ground floor unit that we had. I put it on the market on a Friday, and I had offers Friday night. And then when I changed the status, people were calling me on Monday, like almost giving me a hard time that we weren't on the market long enough.
Really?
Well, why do you think real estate's selling so quickly right now?
Right now?
Any idea? Just right now, just in general.
So I like to everybody asks because it's getting to be that time, and with the economic factors and this happening, they're like, what about a real estate correction? So in my mind, like Jason, you and I, we lived through that last real estate correction. And I remember distinctly, even though I was like, I don't know, 25 years old or something, you could get people approved on $700,000 mortgages that were working at Applebee's. I mean, it was just the irresponsibility. You could tell we were drinking cheap liquor, and we were due for a hangover. And when that train stopped, it was done. And now, like you look at everything now, the lending guidelines for normal mortgages are pretty. They're not what they were. They may be a little bit relaxed from the apex of Frank Dodd, but it's responsible lending, in my opinion, or more responsible than it was when the crash happened. And we've got employment up the wazoo in the area. Like, we're never going to have a problem so long as the federal government and companies like Amazon are putting offices here.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Plus, we got low interest rates right now.
Yeah, it's favorable conditions all around.
Yeah, and that we've heard that common theme. We interviewed Tim Kaine the other day, who's a DC, Northern Virginia type guy, and he said he's had the same type of movement. So it's interesting to hear that, everybody is seeing somewhat similar. Actually, I had a guy at work the other day ask me, is now a good time to buy? Well, I guess the ultimate question, is it right for you, right? Interest rates are good. Is there going to be this massive correction? Who knows? But, in the end, you need a place to live, right? So,
and we've, and I've shared this story with a bunch of people. We put a property on the market, one of our rental properties that we turned over and put some money into, and we wanted to sell it a week before all this happened. And we're like, yeah, I mean, whatever. If this all goes down, so be it. And, a week later, after all this happened, there were still showings and someone paid above market for it, Yeah. And we reached out to him because I was really curious. And he was like, this is the house that I want to live in. Interest rates are low. I don't know if he had a thought process if the property would decrease over time or not decrease over time. But let's say it does decrease a little bit over time just because consumer confidence with this. And we haven't seen that happen, but let's say it did. Cheap interest rates still help. He was able to lock in and get a cheap interest rate, and it made a lot of financial sense to him. So, who knows what happens if interest rates, end up trending up higher. They haven't, obviously. And I agree, like, money's not given away, and it's not the easiest thing to get a home loan, but like they're out there. And, for qualified, homeowners, they're available. And, that's usually the driving train of the real estate market in general is when you do a flip, or your homeowner, can your next buyer get a loan?
Yeah. I mean, it's any market. What I'm selling, does it have demand? Which means in real estate is like, can a buyer get the financing? Does the house appeal to buyers? I mean, it's simple supply and demand. The conditions at this point in time in our area are, and they're not going to, it doesn't look like any of those conditions are going to change too drastically in the foreseeable future, which is why you still see people wanting to buy property. They probably right now look at this as a temporary thing.
Do you think we're going to have a mini boom come the economy opening up in the next, this summer, based on there's just not a lot of active listings? We've been watching trends related to, whatever listings going on the market, and there's just not. And if, I can only say from what I've seen in neighborhoods that I'm active in, just doesn't seem like a lot of properties are going on the market. So do you think because of that, there will be a little interesting spike in the summer?
Yeah. So when I still send daily updates to my buyers and to my sellers. So I get to see like a macro of what's happening and how many listings are coming on and what's getting absorbed. And the amount of properties that I send to people is definitely down. It hasn't spiked up like it normally does in April. The price ranges where you see that most is those jumbo loans where properties are jumbos. I think that is going to be, once that breaks, I think that's going to get uber competitive. Like once that logjam breaks, we're going to have a lot of business in that 500 plus range, in that 700 plus range and higher.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's interesting, because typically what happens, and if you recall, as 07 or whatever, higher end stuff typically gets hit a lot. The lower end stuff gets hit a lot. The condos, the kind of the unique types of projects get hit a lot. But again, that's all relative to the area. And it's interesting, I said a comment yesterday that not many people agreed with, but in general, I believe, and Ian likes to say that I believe that DC area is insulated, and I don't believe that. I believe it's more insulated than other areas of the country, obviously. I mean, guess what? The federal government, the majority of those employees are still still getting paid right now. So it is fortunate that a lot of that's in place, but also in general, two things. Number one, there's not all that many areas in the areas that we kind of all operate that the difference between how much you can rent a property for and your mortgage on a property that you purchase it's just not. If I went to go buy, if you went to go buy a property for $500,000, the rental rate in that area would be $2,800 or $3,000. If you went to go buy a property for $300,000, your rental rate's potentially, $1,500. So because of that, go ahead. I know you want to jump in on this.
I just had a Zoom appointment with a buyer. He's him and his fiance are looking in DC and like Rockville area, like something along the red line for a condo. And they're like, well, we want that rental, we want to be able to rent it out. And it's like, well, number one, don't get an FHA loan. And number two, put 5 or 10% down. And in 3 years, you'd probably be able to rent it out for positive cash flow. It's uncanny how correlated those things are.
It's correlated. And that's why it's not like stuff's just going to depreciate so much that, a $400,000 house you're going to pick up for $100,000. I feel like real estate investors believe that, hey, licking our chops, like the time's going to come. And I do believe that there's going to be a lot more, right now, as we know, there's just not enough pain to sellers in the marketplace. There just isn't. We've been tracking what happened on April 1st related to, mortgage payments that come in or rental, tenants paying their rents. And most across the board, at least locally, have been okay on that. Now, May 1st is a different story, and then who knows what happens into June. So I'm not stating that that's going to be always like that. But in general, there's only so low that stuff like this is going to happen. And, The other thing we were talking about yesterday that Vernon Vaughn laughed at me about, Ian, was I truly believe that DC in general, DC is expensive, but it's not unreasonable, like crazy irrational, I should say, compared to other areas of the country. I mean, Columbia Heights, listen, I've seen Columbia Heights double or triple in value over the last 10 or 13, 15 years since we've been lending, and other areas as well. But, there's other parts of the country, New York, San Francisco, areas like that, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, absolutely. New York, San Fran, and, like your underlying theme of like even Philadelphia, where I grew up, just watching that place blow up. Like I can't, like going down the city and just seeing everything that's going on there. It's absolutely crazy. But, people say the same thing to me. When's the discounts? When the discounts? Look, taxes, you still got to pay your taxes. You still got to pay your water. You still got to pay your electric. You still got all these things coming in that miraculously, like you're saying, is prices just aren't going to diminish overnight. And if they do, there's a lot of other things that need to be offset. And now you have a financial crisis. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to derail you, but I agree with you that comparatively speaking to Baltimore, DC is insanely expensive. But DC, even compared to Nova, right? Like Nova's even more expensive than DC. But then you go up the road to where Chris is in Frederick, comparatively speaking, for what you get are two totally different things.
So the beauty about, like, what I really like is I have a distinct client base in Frederick. I have a distinct client base in Montgomery County. I have a distinct client base in Nova. Like I have 3 or 4 regions that I just service clients in, and they're all very different. But I can tell you right now, Nova's very, very competitive. Like you need to get in properties ASAP, and you need to get an offer in as soon as you can. But most properties in Frederick are the same way.
It's been blowing up. Tyson's Corner.
You see that, and then you come out to West Virginia. The prices are more affordable, and things are more affordable the further away from the Beltway you get. But it's affordable housing. Interest rates are low, conditions are favorable, and people don't want to rent.
Yeah. And also, like, we can use the word supply and demand in so many different ways. And, I remember growing up in Rockville and Montgomery County, and like we didn't even really know where Frederick was back then. And then all of a sudden someone moves to Frederick because they could buy the exact same style house for $100,000 cheaper. But again, let's call that 20% cheaper. I don't know, whatever it is. But then again, if they're commuted to the city to work, to work somewhere, government job, and they commute to the city, all of a sudden, instead of having a 20-minute ride, it's an hour ride. And, now from Rockville to the city, obviously it's over an hour, even on Metro. Like it's a disaster. Don't get me wrong. But just in general, that's how it works. You're in the core and then you kind of expand outwards. And then you have obviously like good pockets, here and then a good pocket here. But again, it has to do with supply and demand for jobs. I mean, on your end, it doesn't matter. I mean, for Chris, what you're trying to accomplish, it doesn't matter if you're in the heart of the city, if you're in West Virginia, if you're in Frederick, or in Baltimore. It doesn't matter your type of line of work, but the masses, are impacted a lot. Obviously, a lot more than that. So, no, I mean, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask a question to that exact point. Is Chris, how do you handle your marketing or your message? The difference. There's a lot of messages that are being changed currently with the pandemic, but forget the pandemic. That's a whole nother thing going on. But how do you change your messages between who you market to in Frederick and Nova and West Virginia? Do you have different conversations? You're saying you have different clientele. Is there a way that you navigate that? Is there something that you can tell real estate investors, hey, or whoever, like, how do you match that message to your client?
So primarily I work by referral. I don't market for clients. I get referrals, and that's all I really do. And that's been enough to feed my family, and I'm pretty happy with that. So I am more of an advisor to people. So take, for instance, I got a buddy who's really well known, helped him buy a condo, I think 2 or 3 years ago. And like it was a diamond in a gold, like it was a diamond. It was perfect. We bought it undervalued. It needed very little work. And that particular neighborhood was just stagnant for the time we were in. And I think he made $60,000 just going off the comps in 2 years on a condo, and it's in the Ketlands. Like,
wow.
For those of you who know the Ketlands, like it wasn't a terribly undervalued. We just found a diamond in a gold, like it was perfect. So
Right.
you look for those little opportunities. You look for undervalued developments, little pockets. Take for instance like the Mosaic District. Kind of look around the Mosaic District to see, like if I'm looking for an investor, I'll look for something on the border of that Mosaic District to see if there's any discrepancies, or if there's any hidden gems. Ashburn properties right now, all the stuff going up in Ashburn, there's a lot of deals in there. So
yeah, that place is blown up, right?
That
Chris, sorry. Let me go through a few of these real quick, and then I've got two pertinent questions for you. Jimmy, what's going on? Hope you're well. First time here, Kenneth. What's up, Kenneth? William, I think we somewhat answered this related to, do you think related to a lot of the government workers continuing to get paid, do you think that helps insulate the DC area when all this is done? Yeah, I think in general, the DC area stays a little bit more insulated, especially in the median housing price areas and the affordable areas.
we are all parasites on the federal government's udder.
Yes, we are.
We're all benefiting from that.
Okay. Shoot, there's one other thing I was going to say. Oh, and the other thing related to it, you can take the word insulated out of it. I think in general, the median housing price neighborhoods are the ones that, stay the strongest. I just do. That's where, the reason it's called median is because that's where, average household income is going to be and can afford. So I think areas like those, there's always, good amount of supply and a good amount of demand. Chris, so what kind of advice could you give agents that are maybe having a difficult time right now? Because not all agents have an established business. Some of them, are kind of jammed up with, especially, and there's some agents in some areas that can't even do business because real estate's not essential in some areas.
Yeah,
exactly. In Pennsylvania, like what kind of advice would you give some agents right now that are just either have downtime or what? I don't know.
You always can cultivate your database. So even in times like this, like if you can't leave the house, you can text or you can call. For God forbid you call an employee or someone from your database. Like God forbid, like pick up the phone, call some of your friends, and check in on them. Like just see how you're doing. Is everything okay? Oh, I'm doing fine. I really don't have anything to do. My buyers are kind of on the back burner, and I don't have anything to do right now. But I do anticipate us having some really busy months ahead once this whole thing. Like, just get into conversations with people. And if you don't know who to get into a conversation with, look at your phone. Take the 10 people in your phone that are that you would consider most likely to give you a referral or to refer somebody who's looking to buy or sell. Find those 10 people. Call them this week. You could probably do it in one day, but call them this week.
Yeah, interesting.
I mean,
just
without pressure, contact, see how your people are doing, and get to know them, and you'll stay in front of them. You can do some stuff on social media, like this is great. You could do it. My only thing with social media is people end up spending hours on social media and accomplishing absolutely nothing.
Yep.
It's very easy to
do about it, but like you can sit there and do that all day long and it won't accomplish anything. You've got to be productive on social media.
Yeah, that is 100% a fact, and it kills me to jump on here sometimes and do these things because then I'm like, oh, I'm down a wormhole. Let me check the comments. How many views do I have? Oh, look at that video. Shoot. But I
think you guys are doing awesome. Like stuff like this, you're providing content, which is good. You shouldn't consume content. You should provide it.
Exactly. And then that's something I was going to say back to you is that, you talk about seeing, feeling, touching, and we can't do the feeling or touching, but we can do this, kind of do the seeing. I've been listening to a few podcasts. I like to consume some content up and down going to the office, is that, a lot of people I've heard recently over the past few days is say, check in on your investors, check in on your tenants, check in on your contractors, check on whoever. It's the same exact message. Absolutely. We're all people. Jason will like this one. I sent it to a group text that we have, is that Simon Sinek. I don't want to refer another podcast, but I'll put it out there. How I built this. Guy Raz interviewed Simon Sinek for 20 minutes, and that's the exact thing he said. I'm reaching out to my team members, finding out what's going on, and saying hi. I'm saying hi to my clients. I'm saying hi to everybody, and it goes a long way right now.
Yep. I think you can, sum that up in like 3 different activities on a per day basis. Number one, reaching out to all your employees, reaching out to your staff, reaching out to your sphere of influence, reaching out to your clients. I mean, we do that on existing clients and our current portfolio just to see what's up. Hey, we're here. We're happy to help you out. We'll show you value. We want to make sure we're in front of you. That's slight offense and defense at the same time, right? I can help you if you have anything new, if you have any issues, especially for someone who owes you rent or owes you interest or whatever the case is. You can play some defense on that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is obviously being proactive inside your current business that you have, right? I mean, we've been busier than ever with opportunities. Now, obviously, a lot of it is kind of weeding through, as many as possible and making sure we're able to do the best ones. But in general, you can give maybe a little bit more of individual attention to current clients right now and show as much value as possible. I also would overlap providing content for them as well, things like this. And then number 3, learning and educating yourself on a regular basis. I mean, I did a lot of that for the first week because I felt like I had some downtime. Literally the second week of March, and I was super excited about it. I was like, cool, I'm going to be able to catch up on podcasts. I'm going to continue to educate myself because I try to do like 2 hours a day of that. And lately, and one of the goals that Ian made me set last Friday was I like to do 2 hours a day, and currently I've only been doing about an hour a day. So since then, Ian, I'm back to 2 hours a day.
There we go.
We hours of the night and morning because I want to get that education in, because this is a good time to do it. If people have free time or if they're not busy to do that. And I would even add, and I don't know which one this jumps in, like this is the time to go all in on marketing. This is the time to like put strategies in place moving forward.
You literally like some of us don't have transactions. So what else can you do?
Yeah, I get it. If you don't have transactions and you're a real estate investor or a real estate agent or an appraiser, and you're not allowed to go appraise properties right now, go figure out a marketing play immediately. Create your strategy right now. And that could be as easy as texting or emailing or calling people like Chris said, or it could be like, I'm going to put together a marketing campaign. I'm going to learn Facebook ads. I'm going to learn Google ads. Right now, Google ads, Facebook ads have gotten significantly cheaper, and a lot of people are not on there. I've been searching some very big keywords that I've spent a lot of money over the last 15 years on, and they are pretty darn cheap with very little competition right now on all of the platforms. So, a quote that Gary Vee said, and something I watched 3 weeks ago, is he was challenging these huge CEOs of these major companies that are either shut down or have more free time to learn these platforms themselves. Because he says this is such a, this is when, this is the time that most people have never had in their life, depending on what business you're in, to go and spend time on important aspects that you don't even know how they operate.
Like you have nothing more productive to do. Learn your systems. Like this, I wish I've been appreciative of this last month because it's like, I don't have to go to wrestling practice. We don't got to go to basketball practice. We don't got to like all those extracurricular activities. Everything just came to a screeching halt. Now you can really say, okay, I'm gonna like block my day out, get this stuff done. I'm gonna allow myself this time for this, that time for that, and here we go. And if you can do that, like, man,
that was going to lead me to my next question too.
I was going down that same road.
Oh, do you want to ask that question? Wait, let me answer TJ real quick. Yeah. TJ, so if you have a property under contract that you already secured, you're trying to find a hard money lender, Well, if you're in the local area where we are, Maryland, Virginia, or DC, and then we have an office in Philly, New Jersey, and Delaware, feel free to just email me at jason@hardmoneybankers.com, and I'm happy to help. A few other key ways to find hard money lenders throughout the country. You could search on obviously Google for them. Right now there's a lot less lenders out there, so the real ones are still going to be spending money on Google AdWords, which like we are every day. So if they're not lending, they're probably not going to be spending the high click rates. So go there. Go to reiclub.com. That's another option, and go under the classified sections under hard money lenders, and there's some good ones there. And when meetup groups and real estate investment association groups are back online and back in business, going to a lot of those networking groups is a good way to do it. But if you have any questions related to that, just shoot me an email, jason@hardmoneybankers.com. And if it's I might have a referral for you if you're looking for somebody outside this area.
And TJ, more importantly, we're about to learn how you manage 8 kids, because Chris, I don't know how you do it. If I'm reading this correctly, it says
so it's 9. I didn't know it was 8. I forgot. See, this is Chris, your website. I counted 8. I counted 8 kids on the most recent picture that you had on your website. I know, and I wasn't sure.
Baby's 2 months old. Like, we haven't done the family pictures because of COVID or something.
I know. I wasn't.
You got 9 kids?
Yeah.
Dude, I can't, let alone afford it. I can't handle it. My God.
So part of the reason I've been a solo operation, and I'm just happy to do, like, I don't need to be I don't need to do 200 transactions a year. I want to do enough transactions to feed my family, because my time is, I got to take care of it. I got to help my wife keep this whole thing keep everybody on board. And that is a lot of effort. So
right, you got to drive the bus to and from school. You got to take the tractor trailer to go.
We do have a 15-passenger Ford Transit.
My man, that is
he had 0 kids when I met him. 0 kids, yeah. And then he popped out 1, and then pretty much every year, just a new one came out.
Every other year.
Wow.
So that's what it comes up with every other year.
Like, for a kid, I graduated high school from North Dakota. I grew up in a town of 400 people. I went to the Marine Corps. I spent 4 years out in California. I met a girl from Maryland. I never lived on the East Coast before. So when I was getting out, I said, let's go to the East Coast. Let's see what happens. I got into real estate, and no college education, less than a year in the state. And I hit the ground running, and it's been great ever since. It's not easy all the time, but it's like, I consider myself very lucky. It's been a great trip.
Yeah, no, we're lucky to have you on here and interview, and thank you for serving the country. Obviously, that's number one, and number two, that's awesome that you take care of your family. I'm glad you enjoy the East Coast, because the West Coast is a little rough. So.
You got kids, Ian?
I have 2. Two's
you got to entertain 2.
Two's amateur.
Yeah, it's amateur.
Jason, you're twins, right? You got twins, and then
me. Yeah.
What?
3
yeah, you're 3, right? Threes. You go from man to man to zone.
Right.
So you got to kind of figure out how to navigate that. 2 is like, you get this one, I get that one. And
1 and 2 are easy because there's enough adults to grab each one of them. When you have 3, I went from 1 to 3. So all of a sudden it was like, oh, the 2 of us can manage 1. Now we have 2 kids to manage 1 adult. So it's complete opposite.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I'm not putting anything on record. I'm gonna leave it at that. So, so since you do have 9 kids, what systems do you put in place? I respect, I 100% respect that mentality of, hey, I just want to do enough to support my family, and I'm good with that. I don't need a mega operation, but you still need to manage the transactions. Is there any websites or any technology that you've implemented to help you remain a one-man team, or one and a half?
About 3 or 4 years ago, I realized that I can't properly service my clients anymore just by me. So as your kids get older, they get more involved. Number one, they need, as you get more kids and as those kids get older, they need a little more attention and a little more time. You can't just say, oh, daddy brought you home a candy bar because you were well behaved. You have to you got to go out on a daddy-daughter date. We've got to do things here and there. So I didn't have the time. I had more clients and I had to devote time to the family a little bit more. I just realized that I can't serve my clients. So I was looking for a transaction coordinator for like 6 months. I got a lot of referrals from people, a lot of recommendations. I settled on a transaction coordinator based out of Denver. I think it's the coordinator team. I could probably message you about it later. I could put it in comments later, but
yeah, comment that. That's a good resource, I think, for any real estate agent.
And I can tell you the one I've had so far for the past year, I've just had an exclusive one assigned to me. She's been just dynamite. It's a virtual one. I pay per transaction, and from contract to close, like 80% of the administrative stuff done. I don't even got to worry about it. I just get an update on it. It's like, all right, good to go. Like it's just taken so much off of my plate, and it's made life easier. I can sit there and pay a little bit more attention to each of my clients, and before we go under contract, I can really give them confidence. Like, look, this is a good decision, or we should price at this price because look at this little thing. I can really sit there and focus on each transaction this way, and that's helped a lot. So it's
nice.
It's been a really good thing.
Nice. Ian, we got anything else for Chris before we
check Instagram to see if there's any questions over here? There's not.
I mean, that's why he doesn't have any employees. He's got 9 kids to stuff mailers for him.
When I send out my calendars, when I send out the magnets,
yep,
they always get a kick out of it. It's like a little assembly line. I should actually that should be something I should actually Instagram or something one of these days.
Absolutely, make content.
It's pretty fun.
Make content around it.
It's like when I used to brew beer. They wanted to help me bottle the beer, and they wanted to crimp all the bottle caps on.
Yeah.
They wanted to taste all the flavors.
Yeah, you have samples.
Well, the good news is he's building this business from the ground up, and in no time flat, he'll have 9 agents under him, right? So,
my 16-year-old daughter, one of the first things she's going to do when she turns 18 is get her license.
Yeah, I think that's an awesome piece of advice. Everyone's going. We can have the great college debate later, but I think that's an awesome piece of advice. Something always to to fall back on. A friend of mine, something similar. His daughter was going to go to college, and she said, no, I want to go get my cosmetology license. And then if I can do college, I'm going to do it on my own. I just want to have that to fall back on. So I think that's anyone that's young out there listening, that's a great piece of advice. It's something you can always fall back on.
Yeah.
So, Chris, man, we thank you for jumping on here. I know you're road tripping back to North Dakota to retrieve the family here next week. So have safe travels. Leave us with anything. What's that?
Is this the first time you've been home by yourself in 15 years?
I can't remember. I think I've spent a couple of days by myself, but
hey, here. God, you two probably aren't the right person to ask this, but so my business partner Chris hit me and our buddy Glenn up last night with this question, and I'm going to ask you guys this question. Let me just find the question real quick. I think it was. Hold on one sec. Hold on. What was the last restaurant you sat down at and when?
Oh my God.
It was Primanti Brothers.
What day?
It was in West Virginia. We were coming back from Junior State Wrestling in West Virginia, and we stopped at Primanti Brothers on the way home with some of our team.
So that was like the first weekend in March?
First week in March. First week in March.
Ian, do you know yours?
I couldn't even tell you, man.
Isn't that sad?
I'm trying to rack my brain. I can't. I can't.
So I didn't know, but I had to look on my calendar to see where I was in early March, and I was at a soccer tournament in Richmond, with my son, and we had a team dinner on Saturday, March 7th.
Yeah.
That was the last one.
Wow.
I think it was March 8th. We were supposed to have our
on
league
Sunday.
finals the next weekend. And like on Wednesday, everything hit the fan. They canceled March Madness. They canceled the NCAA wrestling tournament. And it was just like everybody was going through meltdowns. So like that was an abrupt halt, but it's been okay. It's been good.
Yeah, we'll be back online here shortly.
Yep.
So,
yep.
But yeah, Chris, if you want to leave us with anything, any last comments or thoughts, and how people can get a hold of you or where they can find you, and when you head back to North Dakota, thank you for producing a great quarterback out there in North Dakota State.
Carson Wentz.
Yeah, man. But where can we find you online? And do you have any final thoughts for us?
This is we'll be fine. I think the second half of the year is going to be, barring any major things, I think the second half of the year is going to be a very good year for home buyers and home sellers. If you want to get a hold of me, call me at 240-426-9520. You can look up the Kershisnik group on Facebook, Kershisnik, the Kershisnik group. Maybe I'll leave a comment. Probably best if I just leave a link. But
comment that below.
And we service Maryland from Baltimore out to Hagerstown, down into Low Montgomery County and PG County, all the way out to Annapolis. I serve a lot of Northern Virginia, all the way down to Quantico. I got some Marine buddies down there, and I'm out in West Virginia, in Winchester, in Martinsburg, all the way out to Hagerstown. So 70 corridor, 270 corridor, 95 corridor, and 81 corridor. We can take care of you. So I'd be happy to help anybody who's interested.
Nice. Hit them up. Yeah, big footprint. All right, Chris, we certainly appreciate it. Yeah, we certainly appreciate it, and we'll be in touch. Stay safe, stay healthy.
Great job, guys. Thanks for all you do.
See you.
Thank you. Later. Yeah, man, some good stuff.
I like 9 kids, man. Wow. I mean,
I know 2. Yeah, I know 2 people with 9 kids, and he's one of them. He's the only 40-year-old I know with 9 kids.
Oh
the other people are older. No, but good stuff. I love bringing real estate agents on because they all have their own passion in kind of what they do in their markets and the way their business is set up. And the beauty of real estate investing in real estate, being a real estate agent or in general, is you can, success is very different for every single person. And I do agree with Chris's model a lot more, for better or worse. I'm not saying it's the right model, but I do agree a lot with his model of, I want to keep something that I can handle internally, I can control. It doesn't get out of whack. I can give good customer service to the right amount of clients. It'll spit out the amount of income that I'm comfortable with. And I don't have to absolutely kill myself. And there's a beauty. And listen, it's a lot easier said than done of working by referral, obviously. Like that doesn't just happen overnight. And most people have to market and generate business. And I can attest that he used to market at the beginning. He did when he didn't have a huge sphere of influence locally, but he had just, when I met him, he had just moved out here, and he, recently, so he didn't have a huge sphere of influence to go after, but, he hit up people, he did the B&I groups, and, did direct mail and did whatever he could. And then after he got to that place, and that's a good thing to be in eventually, is you get yourself in a good position. And then moving forward, your inner circle refers you deals, it makes it easier. But I like his business model. I mean, there's an argument that you want to be a gigantic, agent, Craig Northrup style agent, where you're just involved in so many transactions and have a huge team and you have this, and it's just a kind of a giant business. And that's okay too. I'm certainly not against that, but it just depends on who you are and what you want to do. It's the same thing with real estate investors. You can make a really good living flipping 4, 5, 6 properties a year, wholesaling a deal here and there, buying a few rentals as a 1-person operation, or maybe even less than that. Or you can go out and, do 100.
No, I was just saying, I just have a lot of respect for guys like Chris, even my business partner, I think I finally come to the realization, that you don't need to be this massive cog that just goes and goes and goes, or whatever, the massive machine that just produces cogs, right? Like there is something to be said. And Chris is in a really good spot now that he's not Mr. I need every single agent under me. I don't need this massive group. He's probably in a better position than most because he gets to service the clients he wants to service. So long-term, that's great for him. And B, the fact that he doesn't have a massive marketing budget, a massive overhead, a massive everything else, it puts him at more of a competitive advantage right now, comparatively speaking, to say some of the bigger teams. He's not sweating bullets. People aren't helping shit. It's just, all right, I'm Chris. I'm here to do some deals, and when I find them, they're going to work out for me, and they're going to be great. So
unfortunately, if someone wants to, he's never going to be able to autopilot that business. He's never going to be able to sit on a beach, for a year straight and still conduct business and get the same paycheck and income coming in. But, people think they want that, but they really don't. And the people that do have that ability to do it, they'll never do it. And the people that don't have that ability to do it want to do it. So, he's happy with his setup.
Yeah, and a guy like Chris, you can tell he has purpose and meaning in his life. He knows his why, right? And, do you see a guy like Chris or myself or you ever going to the beach and turning it off for a year? There's no way. A man without a purpose is dead. I heard that statement. I was like, man, that resonates, because I always dream. Everybody has that dream of saying, living that lifestyle. But I think a lot of us will be so unfulfilled if we don't have something going on and we don't have a purpose every day. I think if you feel your why and you understand who you are and what makes you go, which Chris obviously does, and we hopefully all we do, I think it really helps drive your bottom line, and it drives where your business is going. And I'm still, now that you've mentioned restaurants, I just realized how hungry I am, and I still can't think of what the last restaurant I was in.
Yep.
So
if you're just hopping on, answer this question for us in the comments below. What was the last restaurant you sat down at, and when? That was a question that was asked to me yesterday. I did not know what the answer was off the top of my head, which is sad, and everyone thinks it's sad. And then I had to look on my calendar, and I realized it was on March 7th.
Yeah. And that's crazy when you think about it, man. Just how everything's interconnected and where real estate and how everything's all related. There is good news coming out of South Carolina. It sounds like they're opening up. Sounds like Georgia's opening up. Sounds like Texas is making the push. I watched the Las Vegas mayor push back against what's his name, Anderson Cooper. She was going at him hard, talking about trying to get Vegas open. So I know people are chomping at the bit. Senators, governors, everybody's trying to do their thing and do their part. And the question is, how can we all capitalize on it, or how can we sustain our business, or more importantly, how can you stop your business from shutting down if you're in that position? So hopefully there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and we're almost there, and we'll see.
Let me go through these few quick things, and then we'll give everybody a teaser of what's happening tomorrow. Fair enough.
Let's go.
William, February, so you didn't even go out to eat in March. Okay, not bad. William, last one was February in Texas Roadhouse. I like it. You also sent Chris's Facebook page, so thank you for that. If anyone wants to get a hold of Chris Kershisnik. And then TJ's follow-up question was, when you come to a hard money lender, should all my figures be figured out related to my rehab team, being a figure with each contractor? So what I would suggest is having a solid estimate in place. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you should know. I wouldn't reach out to a hard money lender without looking the property ahead of time. Obviously, on the front end, you might want to reach out to the lender and ask them what their requirements are or what their appetite is. That's a good thing, because if somebody tells you they can only lend 50 or 60 or 65% of the after repair value, and you need to put down whatever 10%, 20%, 30%, make sure you have that in play. You don't want to waste your time if it's not going to work anyways. But after that's in play, and you think you can work based on their parameters, then certainly take a look at the property, and you don't have to have the contractor bid buttoned up perfectly, but you should have an estimate. Because if you don't have an estimate what you think the construction costs are, to be honest, you're not even going to know how much to buy the property for, because that has such a big impact on it. So the construction numbers are huge, and as you get more experience, and as you are inside more properties, and you can eyeball it a little bit better. Maybe not perfectly, but you can be like, you know what? Based on this, I think I'm going to need this, and this. It's going to cost me $50,000, give or take. And then you can go off that number until you really nail it with the contractor and figure out exactly what the numbers are going to be at.
And I'll comment from the other side because Jason's the lender. But if you're new to the game and you don't have much information on what you think it should cost, I'll give you a little tip here, and I don't want to waste Jason's time, but what I would do if I were you is I would call the lender and say, hey, man, I'm looking at this deal. What do you think you would lend on it? And they're, sure, just to say, look, I'm super green. And they're going to start to give you an idea of what they're going to lend on it. And that should give you a relative idea of what your budget should be. Because if they're not going to lend that amount that you're thinking what it should cost, it's probably not a good deal. Yes, now times are probably a little more strict. And a little less LTVs and stuff like that. However, in the grand scheme of things, you should have a good idea of how to back those numbers out. And then if your contractor's telling you $100,000, lender's only willing to lend you $50,000, somewhere between 50 and 60, your contractor's off. In the grand scheme of things, the lenders don't want you to fail. So if you see that, that's a good way to gauge it. The other thing is do the 3-bid method. Go out, get 3 bids. You don't like those 3 bids, go get 3 more bids. And eventually the data is going to tell you what's right and what's wrong.
That's right.
The quickest and easiest way and the great way to build relationship with lenders. Now, don't call them with every single deal you have and then don't do any, but go shop around a few deals that you think you want to do and see what they say. And then just kind of work your numbers out from there. And then you're starting to build rapport and relationships with lenders and contractors. So that's my tip. That's kind of how I got started. You got to go out and ask questions. It's the best way to do it. So I commend even jumping on here and answering a question.
Give everybody some insight. What time are we on tomorrow? 1:30?
12:30 tomorrow. Jerry Lott.
Let me check my calendar.
Yeah. Going golfing, go to the movies, eat, get something going on.
Sounds good. Go ahead.
Jerry Lott's 12:30 tomorrow. CSSI. Don't ask me what it stands for. Cost segregation something. He's going to jump on here and tell us as real estate investors how we can save additional tax money. The new CARES Act, I got to look up here. The camera's here now. The new CARES Act is actually providing real estate investors potentially with a huge tax savings and look back. We're going to discuss that. He's going to do a good 20-minute presentation with an actual case study of a property and how somebody saved, I think, 6 figures plus on their taxes on a $2 million deal, which is huge. So that'll be super exciting. Check that out. So I'm excited to have him on here tomorrow and see where he takes that conversation. We're actually new. We just started using his services. So I might be a real life case study here in a few months. But I'm super excited to find out more about it.
And he knows he's not allowed to sell or pitch or anything like that. This is we don't do any of that stuff on any of these. That's not the point. The point is it's a new concept, and
it's a concept.
I'm curious about the concept. So it's a concept. I mean, in general, it looks like this. So, and we explained this a little bit yesterday, and Ian's kind of going through it with him now, and I'm just kind of hearsay. But what it seems, what's it called? Cost segregation. Is that right?
Yeah, cost segregation.
Okay, so it's exactly kind of what it sounds like. So, for instance, your typical rental property, you can depreciate over a 27.5 year period. But apparently what happens is a company like theirs will go in and kind of audit your setup based on properties. And there's certain items in your property, capital improvements in the property, that you could potentially depreciate over a shorter period of time, which could potentially benefit you. So, for instance, let's say it costs you $8,000 for a new roof. Instead of depreciating that over 27.5 years, you might be able to depreciate that over 3 or 5 years and get a quicker, immediate benefit of that. But on the down, on the other side of it, you might not want to depreciate everything in year 1 or year 2 or year 5. You might want longer term stuff. So I guess they have software and tools to analyze it, to see what's the works the best based on your situation.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. And if anyone wants to search it, do some research. So when he's talking tomorrow, you have a better idea. It's also called, it's either called cost segregation studies or bonus depreciation has been the new hot button word out recently. So I think when we had the tax change here a few years ago in 2017, that became a big popular word about bonus depreciation. So we're going to learn how it all works. And like I said, we're a real life case study. We're not selling, we're not pitching, neither is he. He's literally just giving us real life data, a concept and a case study of how it works. And hopefully you can apply it to your business or save it in your toolbox for a day that you can use it. So with that being said, I got nothing. I think the draft's on tonight. I wonder who's going, that's what we should ask everybody. Who do you think's going number one? I mean, I think it's pretty obvious, but if Glenn's still on here, maybe he has some insight, but I would assume Burrows is going to Cincinnati. And I think for all you DC guys, sounds like what's his name from Ohio State, Chase Young. Is his name Chase Daniels? Young, Chase something. The defensive end most likely will wind up at the Redskins, which to me as an Eagles fan is probably not a good thing. So,
yeah, you're asking the wrong person. I have no idea.
Oh, you're not a football guy?
You can ask Glenn.
I'm waiting for Glenn to jump.
I'm in the sport of personal finance, business, and marketing. Those are my hobbies.
Well, fair enough. That's fine. We'll catch you guys tomorrow, yes. And I can't debate that one. I mean, so.
I do follow sports as well, but I'm not like fantasy craziness could give a crap.
Yeah,
and listen, man. You know who explains the fanatic? What's the word? Let me think of a good way to describe this. Remember we saw Tony Robbins speak?
Yeah.
You know what I'm getting at? Related to how people are focused on the wrong things. Mm-hmm. How there's a lot of big wins that we all have in our life, in our personal lives or in business, our careers, whatever the case is, and it's great. Like you win a big deal, right? And all of a sudden, you're happy. And you're like, cool, hey, let's celebrate, whatever, and you're happy. And that's like, you think back and that's like the best time that the best accomplishment that you ever had, right? And then he used an example of like, think about when, and he said this 2 years ago when we saw him. He's like, think about, because you got up on your freaking chair and said, fly, Eagles, fly. Think about when your sports team wins. You freaking go freaking crazy. Screaming, yelling, drinking, freaking gallivanting around town, doing all the craziness to a team where you have no relationship to. You've never met a player. You don't even know if some of these people are good people. You have zero, it has nothing to do with you. And you're on 10 over here and you're on 1 over here when you have a huge personal win. You go out and you lose 30 pounds. It's like, yeah, and then it's over. But then your team wins and all of a sudden you're all the way up here. So I don't know. That concept was very interesting to me, and it's true. And it's true.
It's 100% true. I don't think enough of it. I think with a time like this, is that now is a time for people to stop and celebrate their wins or look at their losses and really take a look inside. That, or you just need to have 6 more kids and you'll have your own your own fan base. So. No, but
I don't even know what that means. But okay, go ahead.
Chris, he's got 9 kids. He's got a whole fan sector. So I just can't get over this. I'll probably be talking about it again tomorrow. I'm gonna ask Jerry how many kids he has.
That should be our first interview question for everybody.
Yeah, everybody. Oh, you don't have 9 kids? You can't be on this thing. So,
like, how dare you?
Yeah. So anyway, but all right. I guess we'll catch you tomorrow, and see you then. 12:30.
All right, 12:30. We're gonna try to pump this up a little bit. Share this with any of your friends tomorrow that own rental properties, because the topic we're talking tomorrow is going to be very, very interesting. Catch you guys later.
Thanks for tuning in to the Real Estate Reserve podcast. Do us a favor and like, comment, and share our broadcast. It helps the algorithm and helps us spread the word too. Till next time, thank you for tuning in.